The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hi, my name is Leo Connors, and welcome to The Ring and All Other Sports. Tonight, I got a very special guest, Sam Amado, professional wrestler. Now, what's your shoot job, Sam? I know you help people, so.
Well, it turns out I'm a personal trainer.
Yep.
I run a personal training studio in Everett. It's called Way Better You. So Everett, Massachusetts, so that we're clear because we're in New Hampshire.
Right.
I've been there about a year now, but I've been doing personal training since 2008 when I got back from the reality show that I did in 2007.
Yes.
I'm sure
We're
we'll get to
definitely
that
gonna get to that.
at some point, but I'm a personal trainer and I also run CPR classes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's get right into this because there's a lot to talk about. You've
Sure.
been around for a long time, and I've known you for a long time.
Very long time.
Which is surprising that it's taken. When I told Maria that you were a guest, and she says he's never been a guest, you've known him for so many years, and he's never been on.
I'm honored to be on the show, number one, and a
Thank
little
you.
surprised that it took this long for me to get on here too.
Yeah.
But I've seen the
Sorry.
list of, listen, no offense taken. I totally get it. But I've seen the list of people that you've had on the show, so you've been doing a great job.
Thank
And
you.
you're consistent,
Yeah.
So who can't appreciate that?
Thank you, Sam. I
Thank you,
appreciate that. Sam, where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Everett. So it's pretty boring in the sense of my mom is from Portugal, my dad is from Cape Verde. They met here. I was born in Cambridge and I've lived in Everett ever since.
Nice.
I've moved from like street to street,
Yeah.
but I haven't moved very far. I've gone far, but not moved away. I've been fortunate enough to kind of have a good upbringing there. And
Yep.
I've had a lot of the benefit of living in the town your whole life.
Right.
Is that you know a lot of people and so the resources are there, and being able to give back into the same community that you grew up is always great too. So
Nice.
I'm happy to be somewhere where I can make a difference. Sometimes you move and you kind of just become another face.
Right. Excellent. Sam, when was the first time you saw pro wrestling?
I can't tell you exactly. I just know that my mom was a fan of pro wrestling and it was on TV and I was glued and obsessed. I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but you get hooked.
Yep.
And then you start to find the characters and the people that you kind of click with, and or the people that you really grab your attention, and then it just grows,
Right.
and your love or obsession, however you want to look at it, kind of just grows from there.
Nice. All right. So your mom was into it. Were any of your friends and stuff or other family members? I know you have brothers, you have sisters
Yeah, I'm the
too?
oldest. No sisters.
Okay.
I'm the oldest of three, and I kind of ruled the roost in the sense that I was able to make kind of decisions about what we were going to watch, and so
Right.
I obviously had an influence on my brothers. I only have two brothers, but my younger brothers, Lino and Sergio. Sergio is the youngest. I would say that he was kind of clicked with wrestling with me more so than Lino, and we were into the action figures and doing the wrestling in the living room and on the bed and in the backyard and in the neighbor's yard. And my neighbor liked wrestling. He ended up getting to wrestling school with me.
Oh, wow.
And so, it was easy for me to find other people to kind of socialize with about
Right.
as far as wrestling is concerned.
Nice. All right. Tell us about the first show you went to. Do you remember
The
it?
first show that I remember going to was at the Boston Garden. It was 1997. It was a house show, and Triple H, Shawn Michaels were on the card. Stone Cold was on the card. I remember it was Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker in, I don't know if it was the main event, but I remember Shawn used to do the spot where you'd grab him by the trunks and his butt would come out. And I just
Yes.
remember how much my mom popped for that.
Yeah.
And just going to the show was epic. Leaving the show, the old Boston Garden, this actually was at the Fleet Center at that point. But the Fleet Center was still under the green tracks,
Yes.
right? So it was before they got done with the big dig. Everything was under these tracks, and I was with my mom and my brothers, and we were in the car, or we were walking to the car, and we remember watching Stone Cold Steve Austin jump into a cab, and we just went bananas.
Right.
We were super excited. That was our first real taste. And because it was a house show, they didn't have a big entranceway. We can see Shawn Michaels and Triple H peeking through the curtain. And Owen Hart was on the card. Wow. Jeff Jarrett was on the card. So I'm not a guy that can kind of like tell you every detail, but
right.
I can tell you those things that really kind of stuck with me.
Right.
And that was one thing that definitely stuck with me.
What about your first indie show?
My first indie show was run by a guy who nobody really likes. His name is Rocky Raymond.
Oh, I know Rocky Raymond.
Rocky Raymond's known to be a swindler, and he's got a bad reputation.
Yeah.
But he had run a show. It was called Rage in a Cage. It was a fundraiser for, I think it was the Everett Police place, like weird partnership.
Right.
But King Kong Bundy was on the show.
Wow.
We had... I don't remember everybody that was on the show. Trooper Gilmore was on the show. And there was...
Did he wrestle? I'm sorry. Did he wrestle Bundy? Because he wrestled Bundy a lot.
He might have, and I don't remember.
Okay.
But I do remember that Doink was on the card too. And I can't tell you which Doink it was.
Right.
But again, being a kid, I saw a guy leaving the school, the high school, because they ran at the high school. And I saw a guy carrying his gear bag, and I begged my mom to stop the van. I said, "Ma, can we stop? Can I get an autograph?" And I go, "Excuse me, can I have your autograph?" And he goes, "Do you even know who I am?" I go, "No, but I know you wrestled tonight. Can you just, will you sign my paper?" So he signed it for me, and then I said, "Thank you." And as we drove off, I read that it was Doink, and we went nuts.
Wow.
Like, oh my God, it's Doink with that face paint on. So, it's been a thing. Wrestling is not anything that's ever gone away. Even I haven't been in the ring. I haven't been in the ring a little over 2 years now. It's something that is just there. It is constantly, you find it. And even in my brain, I just think about wrestling on a regular basis. And it's like, I don't keep up with today's wrestling as much as I would like to, because I'm busy doing, dad stuff and running a business and whatever the case is. I try to keep up and find out who is what and what's going on in the promotions, and wrestling's kind of booming right now. There's a lot going
Absolutely.
on.
And New England is one of the best places. I had a show where you see the guys outside before, this one, and we were talking about that. Like, New England is the hotbed in my eyes. Back in 2002, 2003 and all that, when you started, New Jersey was the place that was pushing all the talent.
Right.
They were all getting to be known all over the place.
Right.
And now it's New England. And it's been New England for a while.
It has been. And if you think Triple H is a New England guy.
Yes.
Big John Studd wasn't necessarily a New England guy, but he came out of Kowalski's.
Yep.
China came out of Kowalski's.
Perry
Saturn.
Yep.
John Cronus.
Yep. Then you got guys like Mike Hollow, who was working for the WWE before he trained to be a wrestler.
Then from Kowalski's went to Chaotic, but in there was a ton of people that came up.
Right.
Prince Albert.
Yep.
Right. Aaron Stevens, what was his gimmick name in WWE?
Idol Stevens.
Idol Stevens.
Yep.
Right. And so.
And then Sasha and Kofi. Well, Kofi, then Sasha, and now Todd, Biff.
Right.
Then Anthony Green got signed. Christian Casanova. Carmelo Hayes.
So that's not John Cena. Can we? He wasn't trained here.
Right, but he's a New England guy.
And Frankie Kazarian trained out of Kowalski's.
Yeah. California guy, but came here to train.
Right. So there's a lot that's happened in New England that really matters as far as professional wrestling is concerned. And there are people that come from New England that matter.
Yeah.
In the business itself.
And we didn't even mention Steve Bradley.
Of course.
Another guy.
Of course. Steve Bradley's amazing. Had his school up here in Manchester.
Yes. Do you remember what the name of the school was?
I don't, but I do
know it was WFA.
I do remember visiting the school, and a guy that I wrestled a lot, who ended up being the head trainer over at Chaotic, Brian Fury is a guy from that school. He was also great. He had a lot of great talent that came out of there too, actually.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, really. Did Antonio Thomas train there?
Antonio Thomas was with Kevin Kevin, now I'm having a brain
Landry.
fart. Kevin Landry
Man,
out of
who's
Western
still
Mass.
training guys.
Yeah, and Kevin Landry's great. And I met Kevin Landry when I was maybe 15 or 16
Wow.
at another indie show. And he was the guy who brought the ring to my first show.
Right.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him since probably 2003 when he wrestled for Jeff Costa.
I just saw him last year. He sells, he's like a retailer for supplements.
Oh, okay.
So ANC in Everett, a major supplement store, he kind of is in there
Oh, nice.
on a regular basis. So it was a nice surprise to see.
Yeah, definitely. All right. When did you know that you wanted to attempt and try to be a wrestler, become a wrestler?
When I was a kid, it was
Really?
there was no doubt. I just always knew. But as a kid, I was always obsessed with characters. I was a big fan of The Undertaker. I was a big fan of Yokozuna. I was a big fan of the Wild Samoans,
Yep.
or the Head Shrinkers, if you will. I was a fan of Goldust. I was a fan of Razor Ramon, The Rock, Shawn Michaels. I was never a Bret Hart fan. I'll just put that out there now.
Yep.
know,
I was a Shawn
you
fan
know.
too.
So those over-the-top kind of larger-than-life characters were like real-life superheroes. And being able to see them in person and then buying their action figures and then getting autographs and then learning how to do what they did, I was obsessed.
Right. Oh yeah. How could you not be though? Because
No.
I'm like you. I'm much older than you, Sam. But like I started watching in '72 and I fell in love with it. Guys like you got to play with wrestling action figures. Me, I had to use other figures and make them wrestlers.
Sure.
You know, the Cowboys with the blackjacks.
Yeah. That was
Iron
great.
Man was Mil Mascaras. I mean,
Nice.
believe me, I was playing wrestling dolls without the wrestling dolls.
Action figures.
Action figures. You're right. Who trained you?
So a Nashua native, Tony Roy.
Nice.
So Tony Roy, I'm sure you've had Tony on the show.
Twice.
And most of you have heard of Tony Roy. If you watch this show, Tony Roy is a Nashua native who trained at Kowalski's, trained alongside Terrorizing, a.k.a. Triple H.
Had Triple H's first match.
Right. So aside from his connection with Triple H, he's also worked for the WWF as enhancement talent. And he's had some major matches with some people that matter. And that all only means that he's bringing some experience that you really can't
Absolutely.
learn in a book, right? And so Tony was not only very humble and is a very humble guy, a very smart guy.
Yeah.
And he was very much a kind of like a Kowalski student in the sense that the way he wanted to train people was that you needed to know the basics, you needed to bring your notebook, you needed to pay attention, you watch tape, ask questions, and we went over a lot of very basic moves that would help you build or construct a match in a way that would help you tell a story.
Right. Yes, Tony's a great guy. Who else was in the class?
So I need to mention Bob Rush because he was also one of our trainers.
Yep. His tag team partner in the French Connection.
D'Agostino. He was great too. He was at the Kowalski school, but he wasn't. I don't think he was an instructor there. I think he went from student to coming to that school. And the school was actually opened by Richard Burns. You had mentioned Richard Burns earlier when we were talking in the parking lot. Richard Burns, superstar Richard Burns, is the reason why Killer Kowalski had a school in Malden in the first place.
At his
dojo.
Yes.
So Richard Burns was known for running. He created his own style of martial arts.
Yeah.
Richard Burns Tang Sudo. And so when they sold the building, they needed to move. And Mike Hollow took Killer Kowalski's name, and they moved to Chaotic. And Richard Burns wanted to continue and run a wrestling school, so he ran Superstar Pro Wrestling in Malden. And Tony Roy and Bob Rush were the original trainers. And I'm going to tell you like a dark secret. Walter ran the school during the week, but Richard would rent the ring on the weekends.
Oh, wow.
So we did ring rentals, and backyard wrestlers would go and run backyard shows.
Yeah.
And it was a moneymaker for Richard.
Yeah.
You know, but we would run backyard shows in Kowalski's school. And I was always curious, and I always wanted to kind of just find out as much as I could. And I built a relationship with Richard.
Right.
And he became sort of a mentor to me. I'm getting to your question.
Yeah,
I'm
no
going to
problem.
get there to your question. But when we started, Richard had told me he was going to be starting a school and I had been doing backyard wrestling, and I was able to assemble 50 backyard wrestlers to come and start at Richard's school.
Oh, wow.
So there was
That's
a
a
lot
lot.
of us that went through, not many that you would know by name. You would probably know because you were on shows and you came to the wrestling shows that I
Right.
ran back in the day, but not too many that people would recognize. I would say Bam Bam Shaw,
Yep.
right?
Bam,
Who
Bam,
was
Bam.
Danny Miles' tag partner for a
Yep.
long time.
Hell of a
Worked
worker,
with the
too.
Big Time Wrestling, right? He's a great wrestler. He came through. There was a kid named Tommy Talent who was really good, who moved to Texas. A lot of the guys, you know, it's a big crew. A lot of the guys fizzled out. Danny Miles came in after I had left. I had beef with Richard.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't see eye to eye, and he was very much kind of, this is what you should be doing. This is how you should do it. And I didn't always listen to what Richard had to say, and
Right.
so we had our kind of like our beef, and I had to leave the school. But the school itself was phenomenal. There was a lot of great talent that came through, and I'm having a hard time kind of naming some of the names, just thinking about who
Right.
people would recognize, because I would be just naming my friends at this point.
Right. No, I hear you. And you know, Richard passed away.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
rest in peace, Richard.
yeah.
And he also
Thank you
took
for everything, Rich. I
he
appreciate
took
you.
his karate style
Yeah.
and got a great opportunity in Japan to wrestle Antonio Inoki. A lot of people don't talk about that around here, but
yeah.
that's a big
Richard
accomplishment.
was responsible for Bedlam in Boston,
Oh,
which was
okay.
a TV show that
Yeah.
used to run back in the day with Kowalski. So he's been around for a long time,
Right.
and Richard was instrumental in helping Kowalski get a lot of things done in the area.
Excellent. That's awesome. How about tell us about your first booking? First time you were booked.
My first show was like recital, right? It was the school's first show. So the school had opened up in 2003, and we had our first match in December. It was December 13th of 2003, and it was myself and my tag partner Tony at the time, who's also a Nashua guy,
Yes.
who runs a catering truck up here on the
Yep. We'll
spot
give
to
him
go
a
to.
plug.
Yeah, we'll have to give him a plug for sure.
Absolutely.
But we wrestled again. Two of our friends from school, and my grandmother was there. It was the only show my grandmother ever went to. My mother was there. My mom's only gone to a sprinkle of shows because she doesn't like watching it. And it kind of just went from there. We were really excited. My tag partner is Puerto Rican. He looks kind of Samoan.
Yeah.
And you've known me for a long time. I was pretty heavy. I'm
Yep.
still heavy, but my heaviest I was 420. And,
Right.
and when I was that heavy, I looked more Polynesian than anything
Right.
else. And so we thought it'd be a good idea to do like an Islanders gimmick.
You just looked
And
good,
so-
I think.
Yeah, and I think it was cool.
Yeah.
You know, and we had a good time with it. And
Nice.
you know, we had a few scares where like the real Samoans were kind of like calling us and being like, "What's up? What are you doing? Are you really Samoan?" But you know, when you're 18 and 20 and you're just wanting to get in the business and no one's telling you the right and wrong thing to do, you're gonna make mistakes.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that right there has led to a perfect segue into you were on the show Fat March.
That's right. That's right.
And you ended up being on the show with one of the real Samoans,
Yeah.
Matt.
Yes. Rosie.
Yeah, Rosie.
Right.
So, how did you get on that show?
So wrestling brought me onto that show. I was listening to the radio driving through Boston. I can remember I was in downtown and a local radio station, 94.5, was running an ad for a casting call for a weight loss reality show. And my tag partner at the time, Tony, and I were heavy, and I said, Tony, you can guess, right? Let's try to get on the show.
Yeah.
And if we both get on the show, then maybe Vince McMahon will see us and we'll get a job, right? So that was the idea. Let's lose
Right.
weight on the show together, and then Vince will see us, or somebody will see
He'll
us.
have to have you.
And they'll want to put us, right? So this
Yep.
is like, you know,
That's
this is like before The Miz, I think. I think this is before The
All
Miz,
right.
right? So before The Miz actually did it, we were
Right.
trying to do it. And it didn't work out. We had a great interview. We had to do individual interviews, and then we had a group interview. And we took our shirts off, and we were animated, and we had fun. But they liked me more than they liked him, right? I don't know if it was my story or his story.
Right.
He's got a great story, and
Right.
I feel like they missed out on having
I
him on
gotta
the show.
get him on here to tell his
You know,
story.
but So he didn't get on, and I got on the show, and I thought for sure they were going to put me on the show as a professional wrestler.
Right.
And that's not what happened at all. They put me on there. So the show itself, the premise of the show, they took 12 overweight people from around the country, and we were walking 575 miles from Boston to Washington, D.C., and if everyone makes it to Washington, D.C., then we split a pot, if I remember correctly, something like $100,000. But for every person that quits, leaves, gets thrown off, or can't continue, you lose some of that money, right? So there was only 6 of us that finished. Matt wasn't one of the ones that finished. But going back to Matt was on the back of the bus. First off, I didn't know what I was doing. They picked me up in my house. I thought they were flying me to California. They were flying me somewhere to do this show, and I had no idea that I was going to be in my backyard. And so we started the show at the Boston Marathon. The Boston Marathon was on Monday, clearly, and everyone met for the first time on Sunday.
Okay.
And so Matt was sitting on the back of the bus. I tell this story because I think it's funny, but Matt was sitting on the back of the bus, and he was wearing a beanie, and he had his head down, and he was just a big, big guy. And I look at him, and I go, this is either a really big Puerto Rican guy, or that's Rosie from the WWE. And so I went back and I introduced myself and I said, hey, how you doing? I'm Sam. He goes, hey, I'm Matt. I go, are you Rosie from the WWE? He goes, yeah. I was like, wow, I'm an independent wrestler. And right away we clicked.
Right.
And so it was one of those things that really, he was looking to bond with somebody, and right away we were able to bond, and he became the big brother I never knew that I needed.
Right.
And it was I would say the highlight of my experience there. There's a lot of stuff to take in, a lot that I experienced on the show, but the big takeaway for me was being able to kind of shoot it with I'm trying to watch my mouth here.
That's all right. He'll bleep it. He'll bleep it.
Really kind of get into deep conversation with someone that is what it is that I've been obsessed with since I was a little kid, who embodies what it is to be a professional wrestler, and then came from the family, the Samoan dynasty, right? And from there, I was kind of blessed enough to meet more people.
Right.
And at one point, Rikishi he's kind of like the chief, if you will. He's the we'll call him the chief for lack of better terms.
The leader of the active guys right now.
He's the guy.
Right.
Used
to be Alpha and Sika, right? More like Alpha Senior.
But he's definitely a leader.
Right.
And he welcomed me to the family.
Nice.
And so that was super meaningful, and I can't kind of put a value on those experiences. So the big takeaway is obviously my life changed after the show, but my life hasn't been kind of revolved around the show. Most people don't even know that the show even happened. It was one season. We were the first season. It was over the summer. It was prime time. Yep. We were on Monday nights at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, but it was like a blink of an eye, and it was done. But I have long-lasting relationships with people, including Matt, who had passed away in 2017. But it's been great, and calling Matt my friend was quite an honor.
That's awesome. Seeing that you brought up like how you both did the show, I have a question from JP Griffin.
All right. What's up, JP?
And I got to agree with this when he said at the beginning. He says, Sam is the nicest person I've met through wrestling. My question is, Fat Mach, it started your weight loss journey. Was it something you were thinking about before the show? And then he has a follow-up question after.
Losing weight, was it something I thought about before the show? Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, because I knew that it was unhealthy for me to be as big as I was. No, because I was having fun using it because of wrestling, right?
Right.
And I was healthy. I'm still thank the man above. I'm healthy. I've had some pretty bad knee problems with my right knee, but overall, I've been healthy. I had good blood pressure, had good cholesterol. I never had any pre-diabetic or hypertension issues. I never had any heart problems. And I think if I had any of those things going on, then I probably would be more concerned about it than I was.
Right.
Starting to wrestle at 18 and then, doing it for as long as I did, I was fine. And I would also say that my social situation where like I always had friends, I had never had any problems meeting girls.
Right.
I think I was more comfortable in my skin than I should have been.
Yep.
Right. And so now these days, as I would say I'm a older, wiser guy, and I'm a family man with kids.
Right.
Being healthy is more important to me, and being that weight is not healthy, and it's not something that I recommend anyone doing.
Right.
Quick story.
Yeah.
Yokozuna did an autograph signing at Sports World in Everett. Phil Castanetti.
With Phil.
So Phil, before he moved to Saugus, he's moved
Yep.
a few times, but he's in Saugus now. Phil's got everything that you need as far as sports
Oh, yeah.
and collectibles are concerned. Just quick plug for Phil, because Phil has always been good
The
to
only
me.
thing I know, he's a Yankee fan. It's selling
I let it
merchandise
go.
in Red Sox
I let
country.
it slide.
You got
I let
it, though.
slide.
Phil's great.
I'm gonna let it slide because he's given me some good opportunities.
That's excellent.
I did doorman security stuff for everybody, for John Cena, for Chris Benoit, for the Ortons when he had all three of the Ortons there.
Yeah.
Goldust, Undertaker, Kane, Hardy Boys, Dudley Boys.
Austin?
No, Austin.
I was at
I don't
that one.
remember.
That's
I don't
why I was
remember the
like,
Austin one.
yep.
The one that I missed that I'm upset about because I overslept was Bruno Sammartino and Killer Kowalski. I missed that one. That's one that always sticks with me. It's giving me goosebumps thinking about it now because it was one that I missed and I shouldn't have missed. Right. But Yokozuna, Yokozuna was here for Mike Sparta, I believe. Mike Sparta did some local shows. He would do shows in Lynn and in the surrounding areas. But he had an autograph signing, and Yoko's on the show. I was there doing an autograph signing, and I remember going to him and, again, being one of my favorites, I said, Yoko, I hope to grow up and be be like you someday. I'm eating, I'm trying to stay big.
Yeah.
I want to be as big as you. And it made sense in my head then.
Yeah, right.
I wasn't going out of my way to eat to get big, but I saw myself different as the other kids. I knew I was different. And he made it very clear that was not a wise idea and that I should not be trying to be like him and that I need to really pay more attention to being kind of a healthier version of myself and that being overweight is not where you want to be. Wow. And then he mentioned that he had a cousin named Sam and he signed my picture and, he signed it Sammy. And later on, I went on to find out that Sam was actually his cousin Samu.
Yeah.
Which again, one of my favorite guys growing up was the Head Shrinkers.
Yeah.
When Rikishi,
Swati.
right, Rikishi
They were
and
incredible.
and Samu were on TV.
Yep.
And they were wrestling the Steiners.
And
in
they were
Vegas.
world class before too.
Right. So it's crazy how small and big wrestling is
Right.
at the same time. Because you're always connected with people you don't know who you're going to be connected with. And if you obviously you have to be nice, but like polite. But if you're wise, you can make connections with people. And whether you're in the ring or not, there's always a place for people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. JP has his follow-up question is, do you think the show would have been different for you if your old Islander tag team partner got picked with you to do it? I think it's more like he's saying how much fun you guys would have had, man, if.
Well, I would say that I was motivated to win the show because I knew that everybody at home was watching.
Right.
Right? That's one thing that really had me inspired to move and continue going. The other thing that had me motivated was just knowing that I'm on TV, my family's at home. I missed all of these things. I missed brother's graduation, prom, senior football, and all sorts of stuff. There was also Father's Day, Mother's Day. I was missing a lot. It was 10 weeks of me not being able to talk to anyone. So that itself was like, I felt like I was making sacrifice to be on the show. And so I was super motivated in that sense. And then having Rosie by my side, I was amped up, I was ready. I was like a kid in a candy store with that. Had my tag partner been on the show, there's a good chance that Rosie would have not been on the show.
Right.
Yeah. So the show wouldn't have been the same.
Yeah.
It probably still would have been great.
Yep.
but it wouldn't have been as great as it was for me. Right? Selfishly speaking,
Yeah.
I would much rather have Rosie on the show with me than
Right.
have my tag partner that I can see on a regular basis over here. Right?
Right.
But if we were trying to get WWE contracts or get seen by WWE, it would have been ideal for us.
Right. Absolutely. That's awesome. Great stories, though,
Thank
by
you.
the way. All right. So what you made, like you said, you made a great friendship with Matt, and you made friendships with the others also, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Are you still in contact with everybody from the show?
I have a couple people in Chicago that Mike, who was like my TV dad, I called him my TV dad. Laura Lee was my sister on TV. You know, she was my sidekick when Matt left. She quickly came and kind of like held my hand and was like, come on, I know you're upset about this. Let's go. Jamie, she's in Texas. I've got people in Hollywood and New York.
Nice.
There are only a few people that I don't talk to, but and that's more of like just lack of communication. But everybody built some pretty strong relationships. Yeah, it was a good experience.
That is excellent. So so Eric, like you just said, a great experience. I want to talk about your tag teams.
Sure.
Seeing that it's in front of me now, we're gonna go with your second tag team first.
Sure.
You were the Samoan Warriors.
Yep.
With Falaba. How do you say it? Falaba?
Falaba, yeah.
Falaba, who's been doing great things.
Yeah, he's been on
the
Impact.
Independence in
Right.
Impact.
Sure.
I mean, I loved it when him and KM were a tag team on Impact.
Yep.
That stuff was fantastic.
Yeah, he's a great wrestler. He's always been.
He
a great
really
wrestler.
is.
Yeah.
But I told you, I think we were off air, that some of the teams that you guys worked, man, incredible, dude. The Hoods, the Minutemen, the Latin Hit Squad, Crown Jewels, the Logan Brothers, the Dynasty, Brian Fury and DC Dillinger.
Yeah.
Who would ever thought they would have become a tag team when, you know, DC had the girlfriend and
Yeah.
all of a sudden Fury had the girlfriend?
I'm gonna skip that one.
No, Fury talked about it on here.
I think so. I would say that tag team was the peak of my career as far as professional wrestling is concerned. I've been doing it since I was 18, and it's hard for you to make it full time, especially in New England.
Right.
I know we talked about how much great talent comes out of New England, but the South has a whole different like system.
Right.
I don't know if it's still like that, but when I was coming up, you could find a show every day of the week down south.
Yes.
And so a lot of the guys would work one town, next town, one town, next town, and it would be the same all week long. So you get a lot of time to practice, a lot of time to be seen by people, a lot of time to kind of practice your craft, and really just kind of hone in on your skills. There's a couple of big fish in New England, as far as I'm concerned. And when I was coming up, I would say that New England Championship Wrestling was a place that I always wanted to be.
Yep.
Sheldon Goldberg.
Yep.
NWA New England when Tony Rumble was running.
Yep.
Before he passed. I would say PWF Northeast
Yep.
was a big
Matt
one.
and Kyle in there?
Right?
Yep.
They had a lot of great shows. Chaotic Wrestling,
Yep.
obviously without saying, right? And so there were other promotions that were in there, and I was lucky enough to kind of get a taste a little bit here, a little bit there, but I never really had a good run at Chaotic. I had a couple of matches there, some good matches. I had some battle royals and things of that nature. I had a couple of matches for NWA. I'm sorry, for NECW,
Yep.
which is Sheldon.
Crown Jewels, right?
Right. I don't know if I didn't wrestle
You
them
know
there.
No?
No, I wrestled Crown Jewels for NWA on Fire.
Oh, okay.
Which is where I
Is
really
that
had
up
my
in Maine?
push. Yeah.
Yeah,
and-
you were going up there all the shows.
Yes. So that was when I really had an opportunity, and that was Mario Savoldi,
Yeah.
who his father was a promoter, and his cousin, who was a referee for the McMahons back in the day. Mario also worked for the McMahons back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Now they're out of New Jersey, and they were running out of Maine, and
And they were bringing over Apollo?
Apollo was coming all the time. There was a lot of great talent coming up from New Jersey for
Right.
these shows.
Well,
And
that's
so,
where the Latin Hit Squad came
right.
up.
And so, and they're coming from Baltimore.
Oh, okay.
And we had Malachi, who was coming from not Malachi. You're gonna have to forgive me. I feel like
right.
it is Malachi because I know we're seeing Malachi Black on
Okay.
on AEW these days. So I'm having brain farts on the name, but he and his he would have a crew. This guy would come from Chicago with a crew, and he'd always set his hands on fire. You know,
wow.
all I can say is that we were running Thursday, Friday, and Saturday on a regular basis.
I know exactly
Some
who you're
Sundays.
talking about, Mac.
Yeah.
He's he has a little bit of an accent when
Yeah.
he talks. I know you.
So-
And he was with the great Cheyenne.
Exactly, Great Cheyenne, right? So they were together.
Yep.
And they would come up and they would bring a carload, and so there's a lot of talent that I got to be around, a lot of
Right.
great people that I got to be around. Crowbar was on a couple of shows.
Wow.
We did a show. Psycho Sid was on the card where down in New Jersey where it started thundering and lightning out, and I'm in the middle of a match, and there's a thunderstorm, lightning going off, and it was crazy. But we had a lot of great, we were on TV
Yeah.
on a regular basis. We had some long-running storylines. I got to wrestle as a tag team, and Mario Savoldi and their team are the ones that put Fala and I together and made us
wow.
the Wild Samoans. We wanted to be just the Island Warriors, and we were. It wasn't the Wild. They made us the Samoan Warriors,
Right.
and finally there was a point where we actually had a confrontation with Alpha Junior.
Oh, wow.
He was on the card,
Yep.
and he had to come over and have a conversation with us, and we were kind of like, look, this wasn't our idea,
Right.
right? I'm legitimately half Islander,
Yep.
but not the same island as you. My tag partner's legitimately Islander, but not the same Islander as
Right,
you.
right.
So we definitely were Islanders, and we wanted to be Island Warriors, but the company was pushing us to be Samoan because they thought it was what was best.
Right.
It worked.
Yeah. Was
You
he
know-
cool about it?
Yeah, and
Good.
honestly, he was cool about it because I was homies with his cousin Matt.
Right. Because
And it was kind of one of those conversations.
They're all tough, dude.
It was one of those conversations where it's kind of like, it's supposed to come and like break your legs, but you're part of the, kind of part of the family because
Yeah.
you're friends with Matt and whatnot. But y'all just need to stop. I was like, well, this is not even us. We didn't
Right.
want to do this.
Yeah.
At first, I did. I was doing a gimmick where Tony and I were the Big Islanders.
Big Islanders.
But we were from Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
So I was trying to make it very different because
Right,
I feel
right.
like it's not very different, but in my mind, I was
Yeah.
being different because I can be from Hawaii and be American.
Yeah.
Right? And just speak in,
And it's an
in
island.
American English, and it's an islander, and so I could kind of take from the Polynesian culture
Right.
and kind of apply that to trying to create a persona. If I were to do it again, I wouldn't do it that way.
Okay.
But that's how we got started, and everybody was like, "Great idea, go get him." And so the Island Warrior thing with Fala was phenomenal. We had a great time. We won the NWA tag belts a few times.
Yep.
We had a lot of great matches, including with as you said, the Latin Hit Squad. We wrestled a bunch. We wrestled the Players out of New Jersey, which with
K Murder and K Pusher, all money is legal. You wrestled them.
Yes, we did. But we're talking
was
about
that with them
Justin
or was that with
Carino.
Tony? That might have been with Tony.
No, I think I did wrestle
Okay.
them. But
And Justin Carino?
Justin Carino, and they were the Players Club,
Right.
And they,
Yeah, Demanto was part of that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So
I like Danny.
and so wrestling has just always been phenomenal. Wrestling in Maine has always been great. The fans of Maine are great.
Right. Oh, yeah.
They come on a regular basis. They are
Limitless
loyal.
is killing it, Sam.
And Limitless
Killing
is
it.
killing it. And so going to Maine, twice a month for 3 days was always a good time. I love Maine.
Nice.
And I had a singles run with the NWA on Fire as well too, where I got to wrestle Brian Fury a few times.
Nice.
And we had a nice feud, and we have a nice promo package I can show you later. He ended up shaving my head.
Wow.
He chained me up to the ring, and we had some good solid. That promotion was fun. It was solid, and I'm sad to see that it went away.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't change that for anything. I would definitely do that all
Nice.
over again.
That's awesome. All right. Now, did you know Fowler before they teamed you up?
I met him maybe once at Chaotic.
Oh, so you did that.
but he wasn't calling himself Fala. He was Francis.
Oh, really?
So his real name is Francis, and he was just Francis, and he had like Dragon Ball hair. He had spiked hair, and he came in tights, but he didn't really have. He was a really talented wrestler. He just
Right.
didn't have anything kind of built. And then they
He's
put
so
him with us,
talented.
and they just called him Fala, and he kind of was flexible and went with what I was doing, and we were able to work it out. He and I we blended really well because he was kind of over the top, kind of goofy, and I was a little bit more serious.
Right.
And we just really, I think we really matched, and we
Nice.
blended very well. And he was able to turn that into Fala Ba, where
Right.
he's representing
Like
the
a
Philippines.
mini Yoko.
You know, yeah.
know,
He
a little
does give
smaller,
that. He
yeah.
did, and I would say that's not an accident, right?
Right.
He did kind of wear some gear that.
Well, that's what made me
resembled
think,
it.
'cause the way the gear
Right.
he
and the
wore.
hair. You know, he
Yeah.
had the hair for a while.
Yeah.
So I love Fala. I think he's a great wrestler, and I'm happy for all the success that he's having.
Yeah, excellent. He really is very, very talented. I got a couple of fan questions.
Sure.
Dave Fournier sent them, and you know
What's up,
Dave, right?
Yeah, of
Dave
course.
is
I've known
awesome.
Dave for a very long time.
Yes. He goes, for those struggling with weight, what would your biggest piece of advice be for them? As you know, Dave had struggled.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
He has no problem me saying that, because
Yeah.
Dave's a real good friend of mine.
I would say if you're struggling with weight, try to keep things simple, right? So keeping simple in the sense of, like the show Fat March, where you can just walk every day.
Right.
You're drinking water, so you're not drinking your calories, right? So a lot of us drink our calories, being soda, whether it be coffee with sugar and
Yeah.
cream, right? I would say keeping whole foods, so eating foods that haven't been too processed. Things like grilled chicken, broccoli, having some brown rice, or some oatmeal, having eggs. Whole foods and cooking from home is probably going to be the best bet for you. The more we eat out, the more likely the food is processed.
Yeah.
The more processed it is, the more the chemical kind of makeup of food is.
Yeah.
Right? And they start adding preservatives, and sodium also is used for preservatives. There's added sugars. There's a lot of things that people don't know are being done to their food in order for it to make it taste really good, right?
Right.
So just simplifying life as much as possible. Strength training is always going to be beneficial, because adding muscle to your body is only going to help you burn more calories.
Right.
And when you're walking solely or running solely, your legs are getting strong, but the rest of your body isn't getting much attention for training, right? So if you're a heavyset guy or woman and you're losing weight just walking, at the beginning, you're going to lose a lot of body fat, but at some point you're going to start to lose muscle.
Right.
So we want to do strength training to help us maintain muscle mass.
Yep.
Muscle mass is going to help us reduce body fat, and what we eat is going to be more important than how we train, number one.
Right.
And we also need to remember to sleep, drink plenty of water.
Yeah.
And I would say people that are struggling most with their weight is more of a mental game than people think. Right? So it's more about trying to figure out what it is the mental barrier is for you. What it is that's keeping you from being able to reach your goals. What it is that's keeping you in this routine, this rut that's got you not feeling so good about yourself, right? So if you can kind of figure that stuff out, there's a lot of cool apps that are out there that help us out. I will just name a few. There's no sponsorship here. I'm not making any money off of name dropping, but Noom is a mental health fitness app where you're going through and they're playing some games to help you build some strategy.
Oh, nice.
It's making you take a closer look at your decision making that you're doing. MyFitnessPal is a great food and exercise tracking app.
Right.
Weight Watchers is also another great app that people can use. They have a point system where you can just follow the point system.
It's been around a long time, so
Very
it
long
obviously
time. It's
works.
proven, right?
You know?
And so it all depends on what you want. But the biggest struggle that people have with losing weight is more mental than physical.
Yeah.
Once you get into your head, then you can get your head to tell your body to do the rest.
Right. Excellent. Great answer. How did the weight loss change your wrestling style, if at all?
I became so much faster. I can remember getting back in the ring after coming back from Fat March and just feeling like someone lit a firecracker under me, and just me being able to get up. I was always aggressive and I like things simple. I'm more of a ground and pound kind of wrestler where I love body slams, I love suplexes, I love elbow drops, I love post sidewalk slams. I was never aerial for obvious reasons. When I did lose weight, I did grow the courage to go to the top rope, and I did a lot of top rope splashes. My favorite finisher, I borrowed from Rikishi, was a Rikishi driver. So a lot of my match style was influenced by, obviously, the Samoan family. So I did a lot of palm strikes and headbutts and palm strikes, body strikes, Samoan drops, body slams, elbow drops, leg drops. If I was holding any submissions, there were sleeper holds, and maybe bear hugs. But my style of wrestling is more ground and pound. However, my stuff looked like more aggressive, more like it looked like it hurt more because I made it faster. Like it looked good, in my opinion, obviously. I think it looked good when I was hitting you when I was 400 pounds. But when I was able to whip it, and really put something behind it, it was different, And maybe it just was different because I felt different. I just like, this energy is different.
But it definitely was different. You were lighter.
Oh, yeah. And my matches were different because I was always the big guy. Going back to making bad decisions, Tony and I started wrestling independent shows 3 months into training. If I were talking to younger me today, I would tell my younger self to just chill. You don't need to start right away. And wrestling then is different than wrestling now. There's a lot of small promotions everywhere. And there weren't a lot of big guys there were a lot of big guys, but not a lot of big tag team guys that look like Tony and I. So Tony and I got booked a lot, and we were willing to go everywhere. We were weekends, we were doing 2 shows a day, 3 shows a day, and we were doing 3-day weekends. And mind you, Tony didn't have a vehicle at the time, so I was driving to Nashua to drive back to Attleboro, to drive to Connecticut, to drive to New Jersey, to drive to Maine, to drive to New York. So out of the way. But I think we know that we shouldn't have been in the ring that early, because we needed more. We didn't get it. And so taking your time when you're getting there, I know as soon as you get in the ring, you want to do it.
Of course. You must want to.
I got my boots already. I got my singlet. I'm ready to go. I just wish that we had been told differently. I also wish that we had spoken differently about nutrition, and I think that's different these days. I think they're paying more attention to the aesthetics. And a lot of the guys are so much smaller.
There's a lot of smaller guys now.
The guys are a lot smaller. They move a lot faster. They move a lot different. You're going to have to find a way to make yourself look different. You're going to have to find a way to make yourself stick out. And I was 400 pounds, so I already look different. But, if you're like a 200-pound guy, you're going to look like a lot of other people. It's going to be hard for you to stick out.
Definitely. It's very hard to stick out. I mean, there's a few guys around here now that are starting to get the buzz of being the next guy. Kids like Alec Price.
He's a great
Channing
kid.
Thomas. I mean, there's a lot of kids. Nico Silva.
Both kids are from the Belltime Club with Bo Douglas, a Kowalski student and one of my great friends.
Barnaby's doing great down. You know Barnaby? He's doing great things down there. All right. Let's see. Dave's got a couple more. Do you like tag team or singles better? You've done both. Okay.
Tag team's my favorite, though.
All right. Lastly, I don't think this is really a question. Dave just wanted to say this. Just saying how great of a guy you are and how you've always been super nice to everyone you encounter, myself included. And I added, couldn't agree more. Even Maria knows how great Sam is.
Thanks, Dave.
No problem.
Dave's always been great.
So we got a little more than 8 minutes. How about let's talk about the Big Islanders?
Sure.
Okay.
My first big match we had was against Richard Burns and Tito Santana. It was a fundraiser show. We did it in front of 1,500 people. It was a rush. We loved it. It was phenomenal. I couldn't believe how light Tito Santana worked. He was one of a handful of people that we got to work with. Tony and I got to work with the Sandman in a hardcore match in Lynn, and we punched him square in the mouth by accident. These things happen. We got to wrestle Greg the Hammer Valentine, and he punched me square in the mouth. That was an accident. We got to wrestle with Tony Atlas on a couple of different occasions. We got to tag with Jimmy Snuka at one time in Worcester.
That's my guy.
Yeah, and so we had a lot of fun. We went down to the NWA convention.
Yes.
Down in I think it was
57.
Nashville. Yep. And we had some fun there. We met a lot of people. We made some connections. We didn't do much with it afterwards, but we did get invited to go to the New Japan Dojo when they had a dojo in
cool.
California.
Yep.
We had hooked up with a couple of people from Canada. We went up to Montreal. We did a lot for local. We had a lot of tag belts that we had won at the time, and we got to wrestle a lot of local guys. And Tony's still one of my great friends.
Yeah.
And we just kind of stopped wrestling as a unit,
Yep.
and he kind of just faded away from it. And then I tagged with a few other people, but Tony's obviously with the Big Islanders,
Right.
is like one of the more influential and the more important
Yep.
of the tag teams, because all the firsts were he and I, were together.
Right.
We'd taken a Greyhound bus to South Carolina to take a seminar with Ricky Steamboat and Les Thatcher and Tom Pritchard, and staying at Tully Blanchard's house, and just a lot of cool experiences.
Yeah.
We got to meet a lot of the old timers, with the Rock and Roll Midnight Express, the Armstrongs.
Right.
Just a lot of great memories that we have from being on the road together. I was there for when his son was born.
Nice. Nothing better than family.
It's great.
Nothing.
I remember spending my first Thanksgiving with him, and just like we really bonded.
Yeah.
And he's still one of my close friends. Then I got to most recently, one of my most recent tag teams. We were trying to repackage. I was trying to repackage myself. Was with Danny Ramirez. He's a kid out of Somerville.
I remember Danny.
Yeah. And we were doing
Talented kid.
Yeah, we were. We called ourselves Mass Destruction.
Okay.
And we were I would say that we were similar to like a Team 3D kind of tag team, where we were wearing,
Right.
the khaki pants with a black singlet top.
Yep.
And we had a lot of fun. We got to wrestle at Fenway Park a few times with Dante
Mundo.
Luna and
Yeah.
El Mundo and Bell Time Club.
Yep.
And so those experiences, again, really fun. COVID derailed a lot of things, and
Sure
my
did.
last show that I did as far as wrestling is concerned, was in January of 2020, was for Pat Dillon,
Yep.
who's running
UFO. He's running this
he's
Friday. I'll be there.
And I'll be there too, so I'll see you there.
Yep.
And I'm going to mention the podcast super quick, because we're going to be
Yeah,
there for the
please.
podcast. But I did like a spot, where it was the end of the show. I didn't get to wrestle anyone. I called somebody out, and it ended up being one of my close friends, and he's a little guy.
Yeah.
And we did I think it was a Rikishi driver, or TKO. We finished it, and that was it. That was my match. It was like 20 seconds. That's the last match I had. That's not how I really want to end it.
Right.
So I definitely have like a little bit of, I got that itch.
Yeah.
But I got to be careful, because my wife is due in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I run a business, and as a personal trainer, I need to be on my feet all day, and I don't have anybody to cover me. So I need to be wise.
Yeah.
And try to prepare myself a little bit more before I get back in the ring. Most recently, just bringing this up because
Yeah.
we're talking about this, I started a podcast that brings wrestling and health and wellness together with a friend of
nice.
mine. It's called the Wrestling with Weight Podcast.
Okay.
And we are 4 or 5 episodes deep. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, on Instagram, and on Facebook. It's the Wrestling with Weight Podcast.
I want to watch this myself.
And so we're trying to make wrestling, that's like wrestling is new for health people, and
Right.
health is new for wrestling people. So we're trying to keep it fresh and trying
That's
to keep it
awesome.
so that you don't have to. We're not doing dirt sheets. We're not burying people in wrestling.
Yeah.
We're not doing behind the scenes kind of like, tell me what happened. We're doing more like, tell me what your favorite thing is to eat. What's your favorite workout? What's going on with you? And hoping that we can take the two, like kind of we'll say one's a hobby and one's a necessity, right?
Right.
We're taking these two things and we're trying to make it so that it'll be fun for people who are into wrestling to want to try to find a community
Yeah.
and try to find a way for them to get healthy. And I think putting some fun into it and making it wrestling related is
Yeah.
going to make it so that we can help people down the road.
Nice. And who's your co-host with that?
His name is Mike the Body Body. He's a friend of mine from the area. He does jiu-jitsu. He works in the school systems.
awesome.
And he's a dad himself. And so he and I have just always talked wrestling. And
Right.
it just came one day where I'm like, man, I want to do this podcast. And I've been dying to do a podcast. And I just
That's awesome.
haven't been able to do it. And he's like, I can do it. And we sat down, we talked about it, and we started doing the podcast, practicing. We started just doing some
Right.
raw stuff to see if we could vibe.
Yeah.
And we clicked really well. So it's been really fun. We're only 4 or 5 in. We're 4 in.
I'll be checking this out tomorrow when I
But
go to work.
Pat was on the show. We're going to be at the UFO show. We've been supporting him as he's been trying to run for the mayor of Southie.
Yeah.
It's that fundraiser of his, and we're trying to, help however we can. And UFO has always been, I would say, like one of my home promotions.
Yep.
I love
Pat's been
working
running
with
a long time.
Yeah, I love working with Pat and a lot of the local guys.
Right.
And so we're really excited to be there. And it's my first time going to a show as a podcaster and not a wrestler. So it's
Right.
going to be different for me.
cool.
And just excited to kind of start this new
Nice.
journey.
Congrats on that.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thanks.
I want to ask you something random.
Yeah.
I didn't know you wrestled for World of Hurt.
Wow.
Dude,
yeah.
and that was like something I used to
That was
love
me and
reading
Tony.
in like New Wave Wrestling. Remember the
Yeah,
magazine?
yes,
I
yes.
used to read about them all the time.
Yeah.
Was Kenny Casanova part of that, like when you were there? Because I think he was a manager there back when they first started.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I don't remember
Wacky
exactly,
guy.
but World of
Writes
Hurt.
book stuff.
Yeah.
Pro wrestler books.
Yeah, World of Hurt was, it was fun. It was an easy ride to New York. Albany was only 3 hours.
Right.
And all those guys were really super nice to us. And, wrestling is different now because everything is so available.
Yeah.
And you can find anything, you can find everybody. But when we were just getting in, the internet was kind of, I don't want to say it was just getting started, but wrestling was kind of just picking up.
Right.
And I don't know if you remember, but like NECW was like one of the very few promotions back in the day that had content online all the time.
All the time.
And so they were really the first ones to
Yeah.
kind of get into it in New England.
Right.
Chaotic. And, but World of Hurt was always a place where, I would go and find promotions and find whatever I could on all those places. And World of Hurt was a great place to go.
That's awesome. I couldn't believe when I saw that. I was like, I love the random stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But Sam, thanks for coming
Thanks for
on.
having me.
I
Thank you.
definitely want to have you on again, and I
Yeah.
promise it won't be 6 years. Thank you,
Thanks,
bud.
man. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me.
Guys, we're out. Peace. Hi, guys. I hope you're enjoying the show. Listen, I could use a little help to grow my YouTube channel. So if you could please like, share, and subscribe. That's most importantly, subscribe. Send me a direct message, and I'll give you a shout out here on the show. My YouTube channel is real simple. It's just my name, Leo Connors. Thanks in advance. Peace.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.